Hello friends, how are you all? Hope you are doing great at various aspects of your lives. Welcome to another book review podcast by team ThinkerViews. Ramayana and Mahabharata are at the core of Indian, that is Bharatiya culture. These are two of the most in-depth study of human behavior presented in the form of stories that can serve as the guidelines to entire humanity. Ram or Ramachandra is considered as Maryada Purushottam, the ideal human being. You can see the perfect son, perfect brother, perfect husband, no doubt on that, perfect son, and more importantly, the perfect leader or king we have ever known of walking on the earth. That is why the perfect social establishment or kingdom or country is referred to as Ramarajya. The great thing about Indian, that is Bharatiya culture is the gods can be visualized in any form and can be treated as a friend, son, brother, lover in a gender unbiased manner, and the tales can be retold, reimagined as per one's belief and social canvas he or she is living in. It is the only culture where there is no single truth that has to be followed. Everyone has to explore their world or dharma through his or her own quest. During these days, we see a lot of retelling and reimagining of Indian classic literature. In this compendium of books, it is important to talk about those which are considered as to be the nearest ones of the most authentic copies of the original stories as per the popular belief. In the same regards, we will be talking about Ramayana by C. Rajagopalachari ji today. Actually, late Chakravarti Rajagopalachari ji or Raja ji has taken this task with quite similar intentions, and you can find about how he decided to write this book in his words in this book. As expected, this book has a traditional cover page expected from it. Lord Sri Ram and Lady Sita are seen in their traditional court setup, accompanied by Lakshman and Hanuman. It is a very popular representation of Ram's rule after he came back to Ayodhya after defeating Ravan. In another popular version of this photo, you can find them sitting on the throne. The yellow background makes the cover page much brighter. It is not very fancy or high resolution, but it is traditional. The story of Ramayana is so intensely viewed in our culture that we all know it by heart. So I will not reiterate the same. One of the main reasons you should read this book is, as said earlier, it is the nearest one of the most popular version of Ramayana by Sage Valmiki. I am referring it to the nearest one of the most popular version because in Vadodara, Gujarat, there is a library in MS University that has a collection of Ramayana and all the versions are considered as original. No one actually knows that which is the most authentic one. So when we refer original as per the most popular belief. And anyway, there can be some differences in all the versions, but the message they wanted to convey is the same. Selflessness, righteousness, and making the society the best place to live in are the key takeaways from it. Some believe that Ramayana is a fiction. However, the proofs, evidences, and popularity of the tale even outside the continent reaffirms that it is an account of incidents that actually have happened. Even if not, then also the message it conveys is something one shouldn't miss. Actually, if you read the preface of the book, you got to know the reason it was attempted to be written and published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. It says, the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, that Institute of Indian Culture in Bombay, needed a book university, a series of books which, if read, would serve the purpose of providing higher education. It also clearly says, mythology is an integral part of religion. It is as necessary for religion and national culture as the skin and the skeleton that preserve a fruit with its juice and its taste. Form is no less than substance. Actually, civilization or culture is meant to show the code of conduct one should follow to live a happy, prosperous, and most importantly, a meaningful life. This is at the core of the Bharatiya culture. It is the civilization where all the natural elements are respected and praised. You can see it reflected in this book at various places. For example, let me quote a few lines about Mother Earth. All dead things, rotting corpse, or stinking garbage, when returned to the earth, are transformed into things of beauty, such as fruits and flowers, and the wholesome things that nourish life. Such is the alchemy of Mother Earth. And it is not the only about goody-goody things. It talks bluntly about realities and the expected behavior with wrongdoers. The honest, when they happen to go astray, should evoke our sympathy. It is, however, the way of the world, but it is right to condemn in strong terms casual lapses of the virtuous while tolerating habitual wrongdoers. According to me, the most important reason to read this book is the logical explanation and thoughtful evaluations of the incidents from the original Ramayana. Way back in those early days, Rajaji wrote about the misinterpretation of these ancient tales and warned against the half-baked conclusions. He clearly mentioned, some persons take pleasure in jumping to wrong conclusion from the incidents in the Puranas. And he goes ahead with an example. They argue, Ravana was a very good king. Valmiki has falsely accused him of wicked deeds. They ask, did not Rama act unjustly on a certain occasion? Did not Sita utter a lie? And the like. He then explains, Valmiki could well have omitted incidents which are not edifying. Both Rama and Ravana were first presented to us by the poet Valmiki. There was no earlier work referring to Ravana that can be quoted to contradict Valmiki and stamp him as being partial to Rama, Sita, and the Devas, and twisting facts to deceive people. Of course, we are expected to think logically, have our own persuasion, and evaluate the things as per our belief. But we need to have the proper knowledge and that level of maturity too. The author not only just rewords the tale, he comments and insights are really worth reading. Valmiki's Ramayana is the fountain source of the story of Rama. In it, one comes across seemingly wrong deeds. Calm consideration of such situations would show that they are just portrayals of similar difficulties in our day-to-day life. It is for us to benefit from the moral trials contained in them. Such interesting lines suffered due to some typing mistakes also. As a reader, you will find it interesting to see how Ahalya's episode is referred to in this book. As per the author's interpretation, this episode is meant to convey no mistakes are unpardonable and there is no fall from where you cannot rise. Actually, sage Valmiki's own life is a great example of the same. The discussion about if the person was actually a god, why he or she should suffer like a mere mortal is also interesting. As Bhagavan himself explains, whatever avatar I assume, my play must go through the feelings and experiences appropriate to that incarnation. The good thing is, the author has also referred to various other popular versions of Ramayana and referred to them as well. For example, Kamban, the Tamil poet, brings the Ayodhya Kand, referring to the marvel of how the King of Kings allowed himself to suffer or in Kamban Ramayana also addresses his brother, raging like the fire of dissolution. Rama says, some of the beautiful wordplays and thoughtful writings make it an interesting experience to read this book. Valmiki has filled pages with the tales of Rama's virtues. The Muni is never satiated at drinking from the ocean of Rama's qualities. In these passages, Valmiki uses the word Dev. In Sanskrit literature, Devam means fate. Devam, Dishtam, Bhagyam, Niyati, and Vidhi are all words conveying the idea of something unexpected and inexplicable. In the last segment, you can see how the author has elaborated the richness of the language and eventually moves towards why gods called Dev and the difference between Dev and Dev. If you like classic English literature and writings with linguistic qualities, there are many fantastic segments for you in this book. Then, like a huge tree felled by a forester with his axe, the king shook and toppled down and lay stretched unconscious on the floor in pitiful ruin. The way the human psyche is explored through the words uttered by various characters gives you an interesting insight into the human mind. It also acknowledges how brilliant sage Valmiki was. Not that I do not know that Bharat is the soul of righteousness in thought and conduct alike, and that he is devoted to you, but the minds of men are changeful and open to unexpected influences. Kaikeyi's mind was still uncorrupted. She had the culture of her noble lineage and was not easily amenable to low thoughts. Many readers think that Sumitra and some other characters are not well explored in Ramayana. Of course, it is the story of Ramayana, and flows with him. But it indeed gives due footage to the other characters too. It is interesting to find detailed scenes featuring Sumantra, the close confidante of Dashrath and others. For example, in the Ramayana, Sumitra is a woman of few words and mature wisdom and great tact and infinite courage, full of faith, in whom hope shines like a flame when it has gone out in all others. The book has some fantastic character defining lines exploring the conviction and beliefs of the character. It is my duty to fulfill my father's word. It is all the same to me, whether it is just or unjust, spontaneous or extorted by force of fraud. Various conversations like Rama calling Lakshmana and others are in depth and not to be missed. A humble and genuine person needs to behave in the following way. And then I think the earth itself can become heaven. Let us resolve firmly to change this sorrow into joy. That would be a proof of our nobility and courage. And there are some interesting philosophical lines too. Time is made up of a succession of tomorrows, and one day is just like another. Inevitable sorrows do not become joys by postponement. There is a strength in supreme love which defies reason and laughs at death itself. The book has many typographical and proofreading errors, especially in the Kindle edition that I read. It affects the reading experience. You can find some of the examples on our review article on our website. Also, you will notice that the names are spelled as per the South Indian dialects. It in no way affects the reading experience, of course. So, what is the conclusion? Well, overall, a nice, genuine, thoughtful, and logical interpretation of Ramayana. One must read it. ThinkerViews rating around 7.5 out of 10 based strictly on our reading experience. Otherwise, we all know that Ramayana is a masterpiece one shouldn't miss.